So that was the countdown. So this is the first presentation in this afternoon session. So we will start with the first challenges of learning and teaching linguistics online by Professor Mohamed JAAFARI from the Faculty of Arabic Language, Qadi Iyad University, Marrakesh. So the objective of this research is to find a way to develop linguistics education and of course online. So the method, we start with an empirical research, namely survey, and then we will discuss the results from this empirical research. So what's the objective of this this research is to develop online courses in linguistics that I name OCL. So we start, so of course, to achieve to success, we've got to start with empirical research, then to answer the needs, first proficiencies and technologies. The research results. The survey results in this in these numbers. So the respondents were 60 people, 9 professors and 38 undergraduates. So the survey was on Facebook, also emails and WhatsApp groups of within Faculty of Arabic Language. So the total respondents were 60. We asked them gender questions, but this was just optional, but everybody answered this question, and the number was 35 females and 25 males. In terms of age, 41 people were more than 30, and between 19 and 25, 17 people. This may be also meaningful in terms who among these undergraduates, who are the people, the age group who answered, who were able, who gave importance to surveys online. So only those people who are more than 30 years old. Now the languages. So the question that was asked is, what is your language of study, or whether if you are a professor, what's the language of instruction? So the languages were Arabic, English, French, and Spanish, but the majority were Arabic, English, and French. This concerns English. 12 people who are specialized in English. So concerning the question, rate your skills using educational technology, namely designing, processing, evaluation tools. The majority of the people, of the respondents, answered that it is their skill is, or their level, they rated their level in these skills, educational technology, low, intermediate. It means fair. So only so 12 people said it's high, and 7 were low. They rate their skills in educational technology low. So it's a good answer that 20 out of 60 people have low intermediate knowledge. Now, concerning linguistics, the majority, 38 people out of 60 answered yes, and especially during COVID pandemic. Five probably in the future, and 6 out of 60 yes before COVID. So it means that online practices of linguistics was very low, 6, but during COVID, so COVID make people switch or immigrate to online activity. Now, concerning the question, rate the results from experience in online courses in linguistics. So, how do you rate your experience of online courses in linguistics? So, not online in general, but specifically in linguistics. So the results come as 28 out of 60 said that partly satisfied. It is less than satisfied. Why? So this is the question. So the research should go further in order to ask and deeply into the reasons why people are not satisfied, completely satisfied with their experience of online courses in linguistics. Now, the next question concerns what strategies do you think most appropriate for successful online courses in linguistics? So, here concerns pedagogy. So, what do you like or what do you prefer to study linguistics? 100% online, completely online, or completely face-to-face in person, or blended. So the majority of the respondents prefer blended. Now we opt for blended. Yes, it's okay for online courses, but it should be mixed with in-person interaction. Now we go further into the discussion with the respondents, and we ask them particular questions about the tools that they see most appropriate for to have successful online courses in linguistics. So how do you see, or how important for you is creating, editing, and managing documents in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and PDF? The majority also say very important. So if a professor, if an institution wants to move online and study linguistics, so these are the tools, these are the skills that they should train both teachers, professors, and learners. So Excel, Word, and PowerPoint. Let's go to other tools. Social media. Now, young people are not excels in social media, and we ask them how important is for you social media in order to share content concerning online courses in linguistics. 32 see that they are important, and 19 they see that these social media are very important, but just to share lessons, lectures, and so on. How important is setting up virtual classrooms for interaction? Virtual classrooms, classrooms, digital classrooms. Again, 32 see that these are very important. So people, students, learners, and teachers, and these are the respondents, most of them are learners. They see that these activities, these tools are very important for the success of online courses. Now, live sessions for lecturing and interaction. very important. 31 again. So all these tools are important. So we are now looking for tools, for appropriate tools to lecture online in linguistics. And 22, 23 out of 60, they see that it is important. So 23 plus 31, so it means 54. So it is the majority. Now, how do you see how important to you is implementing online interactive quizzes? So this comes to evaluation, to assessment. Now the number of concerning who expressed that it is very important is reduced to 23. This is very important. And those who see it important, it is 25. Not at all important, 2, less important is 7. So it is important, but it's not very important. So here we've got to work on that. Maybe some people don't approve of being tested online. Now, exploiting and managing linguistic software. So here we go further into analysis, and 27 people say that it is very important, and also important 20 people say that these softwares are very important for the success of online courses in linguistics. Of course, what kind of softwares we are talking about? So I would like to share some information after this this study or this research, this survey, that some universities since 2015 have already started teaching and learning, studying linguistics online. Some of them stopped, and some of them are trying to see how to improve online courses in linguistics. There is University Stony Brook. They have set up a department or courses. They call it linguistics online, and they are working on it right now. SIL language technology. These people, they have listed a list of softwares that can be used, that can be exploited to teach and to learn linguistics online. I would like you to visit the virtual linguistics campus. This is a university in Germany. They started in 2015, and they have produced lectures on YouTube, and also exploited softwares. I'm going to show some this YouTube. Let me just yes, it's here. So I think yes, the virtual linguistics campus, and there is plethora of videos that show how to use this software, and also the pedagogy of working on linguistics online. And now this campus has just turned into just a repository because they were not able to continue. So why? Because teaching linguistics online is somehow it's not difficult, but it needs a team, it needs effort, it needs investment. And I'm calling here for participation to create a campus in Morocco for teaching or for working on linguistics online. So I would like to thank you, and I would like also to work on this suggestion in future days, and call this conference the starting point for this project. And thank you. Uh, so if you have any questions, we can deal them after, when after the session, at the end of the session. So we go now to the next presentation with C. Hassan Belmiki. He's of course a professor of English at the ENSA Qadi Iyad University, and the title of his presentation is Classroom Questioning Culture: Benefits, Characteristics, Opportunities, and of course obstacles. So the floor is yours, Sibli Maki. Remember that you've got 15 minutes, and I would like to remind the followers, the attendees, to send their questions either in the chat box on YouTube, or we can leave them till the end of the session. The floor is yours, Sibli. The mic, yes. No, the mic.
Can you hear me? So first, I would like to thank the organizing committee for making such an event success. So first, my presentation today is about classroom questioning. Can you hear me, Professor JAAFARI? Yes. So my presentation today is about classroom questioning culture. So first, I would like to, as an outline for this presentation, we are going to start with an introduction, definitions, some benefits, characteristics, opportunities, the importance of questioning culture, some obstacles, and I will conclude with making some suggestions to improve and to cultivate such a culture in our educational system, in our classes. So first, I would like to, in the introduction, try to justify the choice of the topic. So as you know, we are dealing with learner-centered era, in which the focus is on the learner. So we are shifting the interest from the teaching to the learning. As you know, we are dealing with a changing and complex world due to the information technology revolution. So for this, we need to empower our learners and to prepare them for such a complex world. And one of the ways to prepare these people for this world is to improve their questioning culture. And this is concerning the learners. Another motivation are related to the invitation of teachers to reflect upon their questioning practices in class, their assumptions, their beliefs about questioning, learning, and teaching. It's an invitation for further research, basically action research on this issue. It's an invitation for more debate and discussion about this topic. So concerning the definition, before we talk about questioning culture, it's necessary to talk about the meaning of question. What do we mean by question when we talk about questioning culture? So simply put, question is those instructional cues that teachers use in class to seek information or for different other purposes. So what is a questioning culture? Questioning culture is that environment in which the teaching and learning process takes place, and basically is more related to to the to to the existence or non-existence of students' freedom to ask and questions in class. Uh, Also about class time, a lot of empirical research has indicated that 50% of class time teachers spend on asking questions, and 93% of questions asked in class are asked by teachers. For this, regarding its importance, we need to, as teachers, practitioners, to think about this issue very deeply. So, what are the benefits of creating such a strong classroom questioning culture? So the first thing is that it helps to engage learners by stimulating active participation. So most of the time, teachers complain about the lack of engagement of students in the learning process. So this is one of the benefits of creating such a culture. It's when you engage your students in asking questions, they will be more responsible, more engaged in the learning process. It's a tool to guide towards the understanding of deeper concepts. So when you ask questions, it's a way to develop students' critical thinking abilities and promote peer collaboration. So when you and I, we ask questions, it's you and I responsibility to seek answers to those questions. So this is what can make and help promote the collaboration in among students. And we know that collaboration has become these days a necessity, especially in the world of in the markets, in the marketplace, and it's one of the major 21st century skills required for 21st century learners to develop. It's a tool to build students' self-confidence. So when you give the students this courage, this freedom, this responsibility to ask questions, they will be more confident in their abilities to find solutions to those and to arrive to answers. So stimulate critical thinking, and I think we talked about this, and lifelong learning. So when our students become more involved in the learning process, they can become more responsible for their learning, and for that they can become lifelong learners, and they can become more autonomous, more independent. Because I believe, if we equip our learners with the necessary skills, with the how, they can become more independent and more autonomous. And all this can empower students' learning. So these are the major benefits. Is it important to cultivate this culture? Yes, and it helps us creating such a culture can help us define the mission and the vision and be more focused. So when the students are engaged in this questioning culture, they can be aware of what they are supposed to do, the learning outcomes, and if they are aware of what they are going to do and what objective they are supposed to achieve, they will be more motivated, they will be more responsible for their learning, and this can also make them more focused. The learning environment can become more focused on achieving those goals and objectives. So it's also a tool to be more creative and innovative, in the sense that when you give the students the chance to practice freely and to be engaged freely in such questioning culture, they can become more creative and innovative. So instead of telling students how to do things, it's better to just tell them what they are supposed to do and let them be free to express themselves, and this can and they will surprise you with their imagination, with their creativity and innovation. And in this regard, differences will be no longer among students. Different views will no longer be viewed as threats or as a waste of time, but rather as opportunities for learning, improving, and development. Another benefit is that if we create this culture, we are going to question and remove routines. So there are certain times as teachers, be it teachers or learners, we find ourselves doing certain things, but we have never questioned why and how we are doing things. So if we cultivate this culture, our students will be more reflective. They will reflect upon their learning strategies. their learning skills. So, and this can make them more reflective. Uh, Also, it's questioning their assumptions. They have certain beliefs about teaching, about learning, even as teachers. So if we create such a culture, it's an opportunity for us to reflect upon our assumptions, our beliefs that we might have taken for granted, but we have never given ourselves the chance to reflect upon them. And this can encourage adaptability. So when you flexibility and creativity. So when you create such a culture in your class, your students are more likely to become flexible in the sense that they will be more ready to share, to express, to discuss, to challenge their ideas, their views, and their opinions, and they will have no trouble in discussing their opinions, and why not changing them if convinced. Uh, Identify and solve problems. So, as I said, problem solving skills is one of the requirements of 21st century learners. So, if we engage them in asking the question about that particular problem, they will be more motivated in the process of finding a solution to that problem, because uh, maybe I think uh, finding or answering the wrong question will not help us to find the right solution. Uh, okay. So the other benefit is to examine. So it's a good tool to examine different perspectives and different views. So now, having talked about the benefits and the importance of this question culture, now we are going to discuss certain characteristics of such a culture. How can I know as a teacher whether I do belong or I don't belong to such a questioning culture in my class? Am I creating this culture in my class? So the first indicator which can help us to determine the extent to which we are about to create such a culture is the willingness to admit don't know. This is a very strong indicator. How often do we teachers say, I don't know? And how do you feel when you say, I don't know? So if you find yourself as a teacher saying, I don't know, when you really don't know something, it's a good indicator that you are about to create such a culture. Uh, so also when you find yourself, if you find yourself allowing questions in class, accepting the fact that your students ask questions and reward asking questions rather than punishing questioning. Are you helpful to develop your students' questioning skills? So here, I think it has become like a fact. Since our first days at school, we have been learning, we have been trained how to find the right answer, but we have never been given the chance to learn how to ask the right question. And we are repeating, I think, I'm not generalizing, overgeneralizing, but I think we are repeating the same mistake with our students. Our focus is more on teaching the finding the answer rather than helping the students to develop their questioning skills and abilities. Also, if you find yourself, avoid disempowering questions. And when you say disempowering questions, are those questions which tend to judge and blame the students. Why didn't you do your work? So and these empowering questions are most of the time questions related to lower order thinking skills. So related to for example, if you are dealing with the reading comprehension, most of the time you find the questions targeting when did John did that, do that, where, how. So we don't give the students the chance to express their ideas and their opinions, and rather we need to focus on asking empowering questions, such as those questions which have as an ultimate goal learning and taking actions in class. So we need to give the students the chance to express their ideas, their opinions, and to challenge their assumptions. And we need also to emphasize the process of finding the answer rather than opting for the answer itself. Uh, We need also to accept and reward, as I said, accept and reward asking questions. Of course, so far we have been talking about, oh, thank you. So far we have been talking so positively about questioning culture, but definitely there are certain obstacles which hinder the development of such culture in our classes. The first obstacle is related to the culture of telling. We enjoy talking as teachers, and this the indicator is what is called TTT, the teacher talking time. And we tend to think that we maintain our power in class by the knowledge. We think that we have the knowledge, and the students are there to receive that knowledge. So the culture of telling rather than asking. Expertise, and here people tend to think the more experienced they become, the more likely they need to learn. So and unfortunately things become worse when we relate expertise to age. Some people think the older I become, the more knowledgeable I become, and I don't need to do more effort, and I have the right answer, and sometimes not even the right, but the only answer. The status of the teacher. So we have been it has like become a belief for us teachers. Our status, our role in class is to transmit knowledge. I have the knowledge, I have the power, and you are there as a student to listen. Attitudes. So these are all related to what we have been talking about. Concerning training, I think we have a lack of training on how to ask questions in class. So because we should not underestimate this issue, it's very complex. We need to think about the nature, the time given to students to respond to the questions. Quickly, some suggestions to create such a culture. We need to create a friendly learning environment by maintaining psychological safety. So our students need to be free, relaxed, and comfortable in asking questions. So how can we measure this? How can we measure psychological safety is simply by asking the students, if I am about to make a mistake, will you correct me? Avoid poor classroom practices. Acknowledge the importance of questioning. So this is all related to the awareness, and change attitudes towards questioning. We need to be aware of the importance and the benefits. We can change our attitudes towards questioning. Provide opportunities to express, and we discussed this. So all what we need is to provide opportunities for our students to practice and to express their ideas and to their opinions. So the role of the teacher is to be a role model. So you need to, if you want your students to be critical thinkers, you need to think critically in your class. You need to ask open-ended questions which welcome divergent views. You need to be curious, as you need to be eager to learn. Show your eagerness by, from time to time, if you don't know something, you just admit it. Listener, being a good listener to the questions students ask. And when you ask questions, you need to listen to and to value the students' responses. Humility, and you should be ready to accept the risk, because when you ask, there is a risk in giving the students the chance, because if the more they become talented in questioning, they will be asking questions about the what is being taught and how it is being taught. Concluding remarks. Thank you. Sorry for being a little bit late. So concluding remarks. This is what I would like you to remember from this presentation. Please ask rather than tell. So if you find yourself willing to say something, just ask question about it. Shift interest from the what to the how. Don't give me a fish, but teach me how to fish. This is what can make students more independent. Planning rather than plans. So plans are worthless, and here I'm using the words of Eisenhower. Plans are worthless. Planning is everything. It requires time. I'm not. It seems that the way I'm talking about it, it's easy, but it's not. It's not easy to cultivate this culture. You need time. You need practice, more practice, and you need perseverance, because it might be the case that you are the only one, and not the only one in your institution, but you need to unlearn certain attitudes about the issue. And sorry for being wrong. Thank you very much. And since we have been talking about questioning culture, if you have any questions, you are most welcome. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. You've been with Miki from the ENSA Qadi Iyad University, and with his empirical research on classroom questioning culture. He talks about the benefits, characteristics, opportunities, and problems. Sarah is also professor of English at the Faculty of Arabic Language at Iyad University. So his paper is entitled Affective Issues and second language learning and also PhD in university and also PhD in social studies from and cultural studies from so there is a lot to say about his career and his so there is a lot to say about his culture. Now I think I think start his yes.
Okay, thanks a lot,
Yes, the floor is
dear
yours.
moderator. And of course, big thanks to the organizing committee for this successful international linguistic conference held at Faculty of Arabic Language, Qadi Iyad University, Marrakesh, Morocco. Of course, my paper is both conceptual and practical paper. And of course, it deals with an issue which is, in my point of view, highly underestimated by educational authorities worldwide. Because the question of affective issues and motivation is nowadays of extreme emergency. And of course, this emergency has become very prominent, especially during the last, also the present COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, normally when the educational attainments are not fulfilled, most of the people interested or involved in educational matters involving teachers, educational administrations and authorities, they try to seek answers and solutions in the nature of the subject matter, the materials needed, the techniques, the methodology. However, in my point of view, the key tool to deal with in terms of school achievement and attainment is to evaluate and re-evaluate students' attitudinal and motivational drives towards the learning environment as a whole. Okay, so normally the educational attainments has not to be only dealt with or tackled from within pure educational framework. Nowadays, it's highly recommended to include other major things or frameworks or patterns like the sociological, the sociolinguistic, the psychological, the socio-psychological, the cultural, and so on. Frameworks and patterns which are delineating or underlining schools or students' attainments in our schools. Normally, when we talk about the motivation or motivational drives, in the literature, normally there was two basic kinds of motivation or drives, which are the instrumental and integrative. Of course, we talk about instrumental motives, which is the major integrative motive for students, is to pass an exam or to have access to social mobility. These are the major force behind the instrumental motive. The second one is the integrative motives, integrative motivation. And normally within this integrative motivation, the essential is to identify with a social group or a culture. And normally this kind of integrative motives is highly existing in immigration or immigrating population. Of course, there are two other in the literature, two other important motives, which are resultative. It comes from results. Of course, in instrumental and integrative motives, motivation can be the source, can be the beginning or the source. Here in resultative and intrinsic motivation, motivation turns out to be the result. The result. It means that when the students' community, via the educational and the learning context, become motivated. It means that in this third category, the students become motivated as a result of the educational framework. All right. The last one is what you call the intrinsic. And of course here, okay, here the intrinsic, we talk about the learning tasks. The learning tasks that can become intrinsically motivating students, okay, to develop their capacity. All right. Okay. The psychological drives and processes included within these educational processes, of course, the essential things that face teachers and educational authorities within this framework is to overcome the psychological barriers between the learner and the subject matter. And of course, normally, most of the languages teachers, either in high schools, in universities, in elementary schools, the most important things is to overcome the feelings of shame and embarrassment felt by students while learning a second language, and the kind of psychological phobia of making errors. And of course here, the teacher as a counselor, right, as a counselor, but not only as an authority or as a teacher in the conventional way, his role is to exploit the learner's initial reservoir for learning. Because as you know, it has been shown, of course, a lot of experiences and case studies have shown that the more students advance in their schooling, the less their excitement for learning will be, right? And of course here, the teacher, as a counselor, the teacher's main role is to lower down students' anxiety, to overcome the threatening affective filter. And of course, the key counseling role of the teacher here as a facilitator of the learning process. He or she facilitates the learning process, and she does not teach in the conventional way that we are familiar with. Another important thing is for the counselor or the teacher in this new version to foster students' independence and self-realization within a cheerful environment. All right, when I talk about the affective factors underlying education attainment, normally these affective factors, and this is where the big problem we have, or the major, if you like, problem that face, of course, teachers and educational authorities is it's difficult to define and measure these psychological drives, right? Which constitutes a very important, of course, problem facing and a major challenge facing the teachers. It's difficult to define and measure these psychological drives, difficult to evaluate, and of course here it's up to the teacher or counselor to use every possible operational instrument at his hand to evaluate or to determine these, of course, psychological drives, including what? Like interviews, like questionnaires, like students' profiles, and so on. Normally, students' attitudinal or psychological position vis-a-vis these kinds of schools matters. Of course, it concerns the following four main aspects. The first one is the attitudinal standpoint vis-a-vis the subject matter. Does or do these subject matters correspond to students' learning styles and preferences or not? The teacher, does he perform a counseling or an authority? Is he a counselor or just represent the authority in the conventional way? The third one is the learning context. Is it a cheerful or a threatening learning and teaching context? And last, attitudinal point of view or position of the students vis-a-vis themselves. Is it a positive attitude or negative one? Is it a positive or negative self-perception or self-image? And of course here, I will come to my last theoretical point of view is the learning styles. Of course here, the most important thing is to explore. We have a lot of literature, okay, in the domain, especially in the United States. And one of my, of course, preferable, of course, background here is Jung or Jungian learning styles. Okay, Jung, who differentiates between four main learning styles and preferences: sensing thinkers, the intuitive thinkers, the sensing feelers, and the intuitive feelers. Of course, we have, of course, I'm not going to detail this, of course, but it's time. But students in general can be categorized within these four major, of course, learning styles. It can be sensing thinking, it can be intuitive thinking, it can be sensing feeling, and it can be intuitive feeling. And of course, I will come to my last point here, my practical part. Of course, in the second part or the practical part, I designed some ESL or English as Second Language lessons plans based on these four major learning and preference styles. And of course, I included some tasks, some feedback, some assignments, some assessments dedicated for each of the above four learning styles. And with that, I come to an end to my presentation. I'm, of course, expecting your questions and your remarks, and thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Sarah. We've been listening to this paper, Affective Issue Language Learning. Now we will move to the next paper entitled Social Representations and Foreign Language Learning, presented by Professor Dahani Sharifa. She has done her research, her studies,
I can't hear you. I don't know if it's me, if I have a problem of connection, I don't know. Can you hear me? Okay, Hanan, you do. I don't know about Professor Jaafari. Has he completed the presentation? Okay, we lost Prof. Jaafari. Okay, we'll wait for him.
I'm sorry. It is because the connection. So
Okay.
yeah. So the paper is titled "Social Representations and Foreign Language Learning" with Professor Dhani Sharifa. As I said, that Professor Dhani Sharifa is of a special kind because she has done her studies and research in Italian studies in Italy and Mohammed V University. You are welcome. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. I will share my presentation first. Okay, so my presentation is about social representations and foreign language learning. It's an analysis of Moroccan undergraduate students' social representations towards 6 foreign languages. In this presentation, we'll have an introduction, the hypothesis, research objectives, research questions, the literature review, the methodology, results, discussion, conclusion and pedagogical implications, and references. Okay, as regarding this paper, as I said, it investigates Moroccan undergraduate students' social representations towards 6 foreign languages: English, French, Spanish, German, Portuguese, and Italian. Social representations have been elicited through a survey questionnaire filled out by students in their first year of enrollment at the bachelor course in the above-mentioned departments. And students were asked questions not only about the language they're majoring in, but also about the others. What's my hypothesis? Images and conceptions that Moroccan undergraduate students have of a foreign language, of its norms, its characteristics, its status in relation to other languages, its immediate usability in the job market, its culture. All of these aspects, in my opinion, they largely influence their foreign language learning choices and motivation. And I will show you how these aspects influence their choices and motivation. The intent of this study is to identify which social representations portray French, English, German, Spanish, Portuguese, and Italian languages and cultures in Moroccan undergraduate students' collective imagination, and to highlight the impact that these representations can have on attitudes and motivation, as well as on the learning and mastery of these languages. So we'll try to find some answers to these questions, obviously through the questionnaires that I gave to my students, to our students. What languages are most useful to learn and why? What languages are less useful to learn and why? What other languages would they like to learn and why? Why did students choose to major in these languages, and what do they think about the target culture? What are their plans for the future? Are these plans professionally and personally connected to the chosen languages? Okay, so very quickly, I will just give a brief definition of social representations, which is a growing field that has continued to attract new researchers across Europe, South America, Australia, etc., over the last 40 years, so, which means that it's something very recent. Social representations are images that condense manifold meanings. And these meanings allow people to interpret what is happening. So thanks to social representations, we are able to interpret what happens in our world. So these are categories which serve to classify circumstances, phenomena, and individuals. So we cannot say that we can't live without social representation. And this is one of the main definitions given by Jaudet, a very good researcher in social presentations. But why are we talking about social presentations and foreign language learning? Because there are many references to the concept of social presentation in studies on social linguistics and language learning and teaching. Morer, for example, says that social presentations are one of the most influencing social psychological factors involved in foreign language learning. Daben says, for example, that is accepted that speakers' representations of languages, including their rules, features, and status in relation to other languages, shape the processes and strategies they develop and implement for language learning based on the social presentations, which is a process strategy to learn and use a language. Castellotti and Moore that these highly stereotyped images have the power either to sustain, inhibit, or to interrupt learning itself. So now we can understand how powerful are social presentations when we talk about foreign language learning. As regarding the methodology of my research, the present study was conducted at the Faculty of Letters of Mohammed V University of Rabat in Morocco. All the participants were first-year students of the bachelor degree. There were 302 participants enrolled in 6 departments: French, English, Spanish, German, Portuguese, and Italian. As regarding the gender of the participants, the majority were female, except for the German department, where we can see that there is 61% of male. It is the only department where we have this majority of male if compared to female. Participants' secondary school curricula. So we wanted to know if they had studied literature and human sciences at the secondary school, or science, experimental sciences and mathematical sciences. It is, as you can see here from the percentage, For the French department, the majority come from experimental sciences and mathematical sciences. As regarding the other department, the majority, for example, in Spanish and Italian, come from literature and human sciences. We will discuss this data later. As regarding the language skills, all of them, they state that they can speak 3 languages, Arabic, French, and English, for example, for the case of the French department and the English department. As you can see here, the German department, they have 4 languages. Portuguese department, they have 4 languages. This is why, because the German department, for example, they generally start studying English and then they switch to German. As regarding the Portuguese department, they don't have the possibility to choose Portuguese at the secondary school, so they're forced to study another foreign language, in their case, English. And you can see here the choices of foreign languages studied at the secondary school. So in the case of students from the French department, they studied English. Students from the German department, as you can see here, the half of them studied English and the other half German. Spanish, they could study Spanish at the secondary school because it's available, Italian as well. Portuguese, 63% of the students enrolled at the Portuguese department, they studied English, obviously because there is no Portuguese in the secondary school. Data collection, so I used a questionnaire that includes both Likert scale questions and open-ended questions. I processed the data using SPSS, a statistical software, getting the frequency counts and descriptive statistics. And the variables measured are gender, secondary school curricula, and language skills. Okay, let's go now to the results. For students of the French department, the most useful languages are English and French. The less useful are known, then they say Spanish and German. The languages they would like to learn are Spanish and German. So they think they are less useful, but they like these 2 languages and they want to study them. As regarding the social presentations of these 6 foreign languages, they define French as difficult and prestigious, English as universal and easy, Spanish as exotic and fluid, German as complicated and strong, Italian as romantic and classic, and Portuguese as difficult and useless. English department, for them, obviously the most useful language is English, less useful is French, and then known. The languages they want to learn are Spanish and German. They say that French is old-fashioned and it's difficult. English is essential and easy. Spanish, sensual, happy. Complicated and philosophical is German. Italian, melodic but useless. Portuguese, difficult and useless. As regarding the German department, for them the most useful languages are English and then French. Less useful known, but you can see here also Amazigh, so they cited one of the Moroccan languages. Languages to learn are Spanish and Italian. As regarding the other languages in general, they think that French is outdated but is romantic. English, international and easy. Spanish, romantic and easy. German is complicated and rigorous. Italian, classic and Latin. Portuguese and difficult and ugly. These are some adjectives cited by students in their questionnaire. As regarding the Spanish department, for them the most useful language is English and Spanish, less useful French and Amazigh. Languages to learn German and English, and the adjectives they used, French is difficult and is secondary, so it is not very important. English is international and modern, Spanish romantic and easy, German complicated, incomprehensible, Italian classic and soft, Portuguese complicated and rare. As regarding the Italian department, the most useful language for them is English and then French and Spanish. Less useful known than Italian and Portuguese, so they are studying Italian, but for them Italian is one of the less useful languages. languages to learn German and Spanish, and then Chinese. French for them is the second language, and it's difficult. English passe-partout, scientific. Spanish melodic and easy. German complicated and strong. You see how many times German has been cited as a complicated language. Italian classic and soft. Portuguese useless but Hispanic. And we conclude the results with the Portuguese department. English, French, and Spanish are the most useful languages. The less useful are Amazigh and Arabic, so they don't mention any of the foreign languages included in this study. Languages to learn Spanish, English, and Russian. And French language is difficult. English is scientific, Spanish romantic, interesting, German complicated and strong, Italian romantic and soft, Portuguese poetic and new. So as regarding the culture, the French culture is quite generally associated with the West, colonialism, science and innovation, and Francophony. The English culture with prestigious universities, monarchy, science and innovation, linguistic hegemony. German culture with industry, punctuality, immigration, and Hitler. Spanish culture with Andalus, football, immigration, and seafood and fishing. Italian culture, football, Italian food, fashion, immigration, and tourism. And Portuguese culture for our students is associated with Hispanic features, Columbus and the discovery of America, Fado, and tourism. So this is the social presentations our students have towards these target cultures. We ask them, why did you choose to study the X language? So depending on the language they wanted to study. So French, students of the French department, because they want to have a high-level competence. So they want to get a high-level competence in French, and because Morocco is a French-speaking country. Students of the English department chose to study English because it's essential and it's easy. Students of the German department because they want to pursue their studies in Germany and because they want to get the Schengen visa. Spanish, students of the Spanish department because Spanish is an international language and because it was the only possible choice. Students of the Italian language because they want to pursue studies in Italy and because this was the only possible choice. We'll discuss this data later. Portuguese because it's a new language and it's a Latin language. We ask them also, if you have the choice to change it, which language would you like to learn? So French, students of French would like to study English and Spanish, students of English, Spanish and German, students of Spanish, English and German, students of German, Spanish and English, students of the Italian department, English and Spanish, students of the Portuguese department, English and Italian. Asking them about their plans for the future. Students of French want to teach and to work in translations and journalism. Students of English, teaching and studying a master's. Students of German, settling in Germany and teaching. Students of Spanish, teaching and translation. Students of Italian, they want to study an MA in Italy and translation and teaching. And students of Portuguese, translation and studying an MA in Portugal. Okay, as regarding gender variable, we see that women are more oriented towards foreign languages. We have a greater presence of women in all departments, except for the German department, where the majority are male, probably due to the fact that many of them are willing to emigrate to Germany. As regarding secondary school curricula variable, we can see that the two most crowded departments, namely French and English, in these two departments, most of the students come from a secondary school scientific curricula, despite the fact that generally linguistic studies are better matched to the literary human sciences curricula. And this aspect leaves open to interpretation. It might have to do with the importance given to the scientific curricula in our educational system beliefs, and this is why it is chosen sometimes by students who are not really oriented towards science. And many students probably come to study foreign languages because they have no other choices. As regarding their language skills variable, students of English and French have proficiency in 3 languages because generally in the secondary school they are not placed in classes of other languages, as instead it happens in the case of German, whose students had to study English in the middle school and then switch for German in the secondary school, and this will negatively affect the learning of these 2 languages. As regarding students of Portuguese, they have proficiency in 4 languages because Portuguese is not available at the secondary school, and therefore they're forced to study other languages, especially English. Students majoring in foreign languages that they have been studying since the secondary school would be, of course, more advantaged if compared to students of Portuguese. So let's discuss briefly these results. We can notice an unfavorable attitude towards French. Students of the French department consider English as the most useful language because it's the key to modernity. Yes?
Thanks a lot. It's empirical and rich presentation comparing between several languages. So I think it's time to go to the next presentation. So if you need some seconds just to
Yes, just to conclude. Okay?
Yeah, to conclude.
Okay. Okay. I will go quickly through the conclusion.
1 minute.
Yes.
That's okay?
Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay, so what can we say? We say that social presentations have a very strong impact on the linguistic choices of students, and the main criteria for selecting the languages are ease and difficulty to learn and immediate usability in the international linguistic landscape and job market. These are the criteria. And Amazigh and Arabic are often mentioned among useless languages, demonstrating the fact that when a language has no importance in the job market, it is stereotyped as a useless language. I will go quickly through the pedagogical implications. So what can we do as professors? Social presentations cannot be eradicated, but at least can be modeled and remodeled since they are malleable conceptions. So we should teach our students to distance themselves from the values of the community they belong to and try to find out other systems of values that are potentially different, even contradictory to theirs, in order to acquire a critical ability with regard to their surroundings. Okay, thank you for your attention.
Okay, thanks a lot. We've been with Professor Sharifa Dahani with her paper on social representations and foreign language learning. Now we will move to the next paper entitled the effect of strategy of training on reading performance among Moroccan. Yep. Professor Msadaq graduated from the University of Rabat, Faculty of Letters and Human Sciences, in applied linguistics, and now he's a professor at the University Professor Msadaq.
Okay.
Okay, he's there. Professor Msadaq is the voice. Okay, just would you like please to activate the mic? The mic. Okay, just the floor is yours. Would you like please? Msadaq, the floor is yours.
That's okay. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can you hear me?
شنو هو هذا من يجي
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, it's okay, Professor Mصدق. Just go on.
Okay. Okay.
Yes,
So-
it's okay.
Hi, everyone. So at the very first, I would like to thank the organizing committee for the invaluable efforts, for the invaluable and concerted efforts to hold such an international academic webinar. So this webinar, in fact, does contribute to the exchanging of ideas, views, and perceptions that are related to the field of higher education. And it also contributes to the sharing of some useful insights and research findings that, in fact, that can shape, or let's say direct, a set of future research agendas.
Would you like, Professor Mصدق, would
Yeah.
you like please to activate your diaporama? Full screen. ها كاينه diaporama لا full screen ماشي activate.
Okay, is it okay?
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay, so this webinar, in fact, also contributes, in fact, to the sharing of some useful insights and insightful ideas and views that can shape, direct, and inform a set of future research agendas that fall within, in fact, the landscape of linguistics. So the topic that I would like to address today is related to the effect of strategy training on reading performance among Moroccan AFL university learners. So this study is an experimental treatment which was conducted with a view to measuring the impact of metacognitive reading strategy training on Moroccan AFL university learners' strategy use and reading achievement.
Professor Mصدق,
Yeah?
please activate full screen your slides.
Yes, I did that. Okay, so this is
Okay.
So this is the outline of my presentation. We have the introduction, conceptual framework, research objectives and research questions, research methodology, research findings, implications, recommendations, and then conclusion. So as we know, in fact, the strong correlation that exists between metacognition and the reading process has earned intense interest among many researchers. So the cognitive engagement in the reading process is governed in large part by metacognitive thinking and strategic regulation, which the overall literature considers as crucial variables in the process of comprehension, or let's say in the meaning building process. Therefore, metacognitive reading strategy instruction as a crucial medium enabling effective textual analysis and meaning synthesis plays a pivotal, or it's a critical role in assisting learners to approach reading texts with much greater efficiency and effectiveness. So what is metacognition? So according to Garner, if cognition involves perceiving, understanding, remembering, and so forth, then metacognition involves thinking about one's perceiving, understanding, and the rest. Another definition is that metacognition is a body of knowledge that reflects on knowledge itself. It involves an awareness of the mental processes and strategies required for the performance of any cognitive endeavor. So can you hear me? Professor JAAFARI? Professor JAAFARI, can you hear me?
Yes, of course. I'm just.
Can you hear me?
Okay, I have muted my mic.
Can you hear me?
Yes, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Just the slides, please. The slides are not on plein écran. The bottom right. Go to the bottom right of your PowerPoint and click or F5.
Is it okay now? Is it okay? Professor JAAFARI, is it okay?
That. Okay, Professor Msaddaq, just okay.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Yeah. Would you like? Okay, to continue. Just continue.
So is it okay with the slides? Can you see them? Okay.
Professor.
Yeah.
Professor Msaddaq.
Yeah.
Is it okay?
Okay. So according to these definitions, we can state that metacognition as an effectual process of reasoning is...
No problem, Professor. Just go on.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Professor, just continue. It's okay.
Okay. So based on this definition, we can state that...
Continue, yes.
So based on these two definitions, we can state that metacognition as an effective way of reasoning is usually referred to as the potential capability or the ability of the learners to think critically and methodically while they are involved in the cognitive processes. So it is an efficient process of thinking about thinking while approaching a given cognitive task. In fact, if cognition means gaining knowledge and comprehension, metacognition can be conceived of as thinking about that knowledge and the way it can be attained. So given the fact that cognition and metacognition are different in the sense that cognitive activities are directed or regulated by metacognitive thinking, they are inextricably interrelated. So the role of metacognitive thinking in reading. So it assists learner readers to be more self-directed and self-regulated in their reading of written text. In other words, by thinking metacognitively, learners can direct, or let's say shape, the course that they undertake in order to perform the task successfully and expertly. Metacognitive thinking can enable learners to monitor or check their conducted comprehension of the written text with greater effectiveness and efficiency. So learners can judge whether the process of comprehension is taking place by involving themselves in a certain kind of self-questioning. Furthermore, we can state that metacognitive thinking provides learners with an opportunity to remedy, or let's say to remediate, any encountered comprehension failure while processing the textual content. In other words, where learners face a comprehension, let's say, face comprehension failure or comprehension problem, they resort to some fix-up, or let's say remedial or corrective strategies in order to restore their comprehension of the content. The last point is that metacognitive thinking assists learners to evaluate their overall understanding of the target textual input. In other words, here we can state that learners can ascertain that the demands of the task are met and that the comprehension process is achieved. Now, there are many types of strategy instruction. So, such as, for example, explicit strategy instruction, implicit strategy instruction, reciprocal teaching, and self-control training. However, explicit strategy instruction has been adopted by many researchers and scholars in the field of academia because it is in fact useful and worthwhile in trying or attempting to strengthen or consolidate university learners, or let's say AFL learners, metacognitive knowledge about reading strategies. Okay, so can you hear me, Professor Jaafari? Is it okay? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So explicit strategy instruction is an effective method of directly instructing learners in the use of metacognitive reading strategies. So many researchers, in fact, grant or impart strong support to the prime, or let's say tremendous importance of this kind of instruction. In fact, raising the AFL learners' overall awareness of the significance and types and application of reading strategies is a foundational principle which undergirds, or let's say which underlies explicit strategy instruction. Explicit strategy instruction also helps AFL learners to plan, direct, monitor, and evaluate the course of undertaking the reading process. And it is carried out in three major stages, which are strategy introduction, strategy practice, and strategy application. So concerning the research objectives, which in fact underscore their study, they are manifested as follows. So the first objective is concerned with the identification of reading strategies that Moroccan AFL university learners deploy in processing reading passages. And the second objective is related to the uncovering, okay, or let's say the unraveling of the impact of explicit instruction in metacognitive reading strategies on Moroccan AFL university learners' reading performance. So based on these objectives, two main research questions have been formulated. So the first question is, what are the reading strategies Moroccan AFL university students deploy in processing the written discourse? And the second question is that to what extent does explicit instruction in metacognitive reading strategies impact or let's say influence the Moroccan AFL university students' reading performance? So concerning the research methodology, so this study adopts a quasi-experimental design, the control group and the experimental group. So the experimental group was exposed to a semester-long training in cognitive and metacognitive reading strategy instruction, and the control group remained intact since it did not receive any type of reading strategy instruction. So the control group took regular classes in the reading comprehension course without being exposed to any kind of reading strategy instruction. Therefore, the independent variable is the explicit instruction in metacognitive reading strategies, and the dependent variable is the learner's text processing performance. Okay, so two naturally occurring groups of Moroccan AFL first semester university students were targeted. So the control group consists of 50 students, and the experimental group is comprised of 63 students. So concerning data analysis, so the data reported by the target AFL learners via the reading comprehension tests and the retrospective questionnaire were submitted to rigorous statistical analysis by means of both the Excel software program and the SPSS software program. So both pre and post tests were given a score after being analyzed in terms of the correctness and accuracy of the responses. And the data reflected by the subjects, or let's say by the participants in the implemented retrospective questionnaire, were coded and quantified as percentages. So granted that the study is based on, or let's say is grounded in a pre-post test design, both descriptive and inferential statistics were depended upon. So descriptive statistics was run to showcase the frequencies of the strategies, okay, that were evoked by the participants or that were called upon by the participants. And then we have the inferential statistics, okay, was conducted with the chief with the chief purpose of defining the means of the reading comprehension tests at the pre and post intervention stage. As for the research findings,
2 minutes.
Sorry?
Professor, you've got 2 minutes to conclude, please.
Okay. As for the research findings, so in striking a comparison between the pre and post test stage, so the control group here did depend on more cognitive than metacognitive reading strategies in approaching reading texts. Indeed, it is notable, in fact, that insufficient metacognitive reading strategy use did characterize the control group's approach to coping with, or let's say, dealing with the written discourse. As to the experimental group, in fact, it relied on a high number of cognitive reading strategies and a limited number of metacognitive reading strategies at the pre-testing stage. Nevertheless, the participants in this group reported using a high number of cognitive and metacognitive reading strategies at post-testing stage. So here we can, in fact, we can state, or let's say we can take the perspective that AFL learners can foster or nurture metacognitive strategic moves, and that their previously acquired strategies can be subject to improvement through strategy instruction. As to the reading achievement of these two groups, so at pre-testing, in fact, the control group achieved a mean score of 5.96, and the experimental group attained a mean score of 4.84. So here we can state that both groups seemed to be parallel in terms of the reading achievement gains. So this yields a manifest insignificance level of 0.779, which falls beyond the rejection realm of the probability value. At post-testing here, we can say that the output here reveals the substantive reading achievement gains of the experimental group compared to its counterpart, the control group. So the strategy instructed group reflected significant superiority in terms of the reading achievement gains by attaining a mean score of 10.66. So this does manifest, or let's say feature. This does manifest or feature the utility, or let's say usefulness of reading strategy instruction in improving university students' reading achievement. So for the implications, so it is recommended. Yes, just 2 minutes, Professor JAAFARI. I need 2 minutes.
Seconds. 2 seconds.
Okay.
Not
it is recommended. Yeah. It is recommended that reading comprehension be considered or rethought and given utmost significance in an attempt to refine Moroccan AFL University learners' level in text processing. So it is true that Moroccan AFL University learners' regular text reading, which is performed beyond the confines of their academic programs, is not a sufficient condition for improving their way of analyzing and interpreting the textual content in an effective and expert fashion. A reading comprehension course is supposed to be accompanied with, or let's say coupled with, explicit strategy instruction with the intent of enabling sophisticated and flexible use of reading strategies among AFL University learners. So granted the stark scarcity of research on cognitive and metacognitive reading strategies, more replications are needed in Moroccan AFL context, and prospective research ought to attend to the investigation of metacognitive reading strategy instruction in other languages, Arabic, French, Spanish, German. So to conclude, the deployment of metacognitive reading strategies plays a highly essential role in equipping AFL learners with the robust potential of conducting an effectual reading process by thinking metacognitively, critically, and reflectively. While processing textual content, learners can attain thorough understanding of the included meaning, thus for guaranteeing an efficacy-based comprehensibility of the content of any written discourse. It is critical that explicit reading strategy instruction be incorporated in the curriculum as part of the academic discipline in AFL reading comprehension in particular, and the sphere of AFL teaching in general. Okay, and thank you for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Professor Msadak. He's been delivering a paper on the effects of strategy training on reading performance among Moroccan AFL university learners. Now we will move to the next paper with Hannah at Hattani. She's a feature researcher at UNCJ, Sidi Mohammed ibn Abdullah University. Her field Okay, would you like to, okay, Professor?
Okay, so can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you, Professor Jaafari. So first of all, I'd like to express my gratitude to the organizing committee on behalf of the Faculty of Arabic Language, Qadiyat University, for organizing such an outstanding event, which has been gathering since yesterday some distinguished practitioners and scholars. I'm very delighted to be among all these participants. So I'm going to share first my screen.
Would have you?
Okay, can you please see the screen? Can you see the screen? Is the slides are shown on full screen? I can't hear you. Are the slides shown on full screen? Professor Jaafari?
Not yet. Not yet. Would you like please to press the button for screen at the bottom of your PowerPoint on the right?
Okay.
Not yet.
Now?
Okay, there is no, not yet. Not yet. Press share.
Now? Yes, I did normally here. It's already.
Yeah.
Votre écran est partagé, donc c'est déjà partagé. This is what's written in here.
That's okay. That's okay. Just continue like that.
Okay. So now, is it okay?
Yes. Great.
Fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So fine. Okay. So my presentation is going to deal with the issue of communicative language teaching in support of critical thinking, taking the example of in-class debates, the role of in-class debate as an example. So it's going to be following this outline, which is introduction, review of literature, research methodology, research findings, and finally discussion and conclusions. So of course, now we are living in a world where there is an increasing there is a knowledge-based and increasing globally competitive economy, which is creating a drastic or having a drastic impact and even a change at the level of different aspects of life, be it economic, cultural, social, spiritual, and even academic. So here we are talking about the role of education, which has become questionable in the millennial era. So types of skills and competencies that students need to gain are different from in the past. So we are no more seeing the student or as that which requires certain skills of reading and writing, like as in the past. So now the students require some specific skills which are going to help him meet or her meet the requirement of the 21st century. So the 21st century education requires a gradual shift in curriculum construction. So here we are talking about the theories, approaches, teaching methods, and techniques that need to be reconstructed, focusing on the transferable competencies that learners need to develop in instruction settings. So here we are going to shed light on two different competencies or skills, which are communicative competence or oral fluency, critical thinking. Critical thinking has a position in foreign language education, emphasizing communicative competence and oral fluency. So learners now able to understand the language, master the mechanisms by which it works, and put it in context. More than that, they need to be creative and active in the production of their own thoughts and ideas. So as I said before, now learners should not be or must not be just mere and passive recipients of knowledge, but they are required to be active producers and creative of their own knowledge. And this is what critical thinking is about. So the purpose of the study is here to investigate this kind of relationship between communicative language teaching with critical thinking within EFL context, using debate as an example. Specifically, this work seeks and answers the following research questions. To what extent does the incorporation of debate as a communicative language teaching activity develop learners' critical thinking skills? What communicative and critical thinking skills does debate support? And how do students evaluate the classroom debate experience in terms of improving their critical thinking and oral communication skills? So in order to give tentative answers to the research questions stated above, an action research was adopted using classroom observation and focus group interviews. So now let's have an idea about what the literature has said regarding communicative language teaching and critical thinking. So Hims 1972 defined communicative language or communicative competence as the aspect of our competence that enables us to convey and interpret messages and to negotiate these. So it is the knowledge that helps the speaker to appropriately and functionally use a specific language or linguistic system within a speech community. So you can understand that the communicative language teaching, it is an approach which is more about meaning. It is meaning oriented more than language oriented. It means it focuses more on meaning rather than on the linguistic form. So the implementation of the communicative activities in ESL or EFL classroom, so such activities like role plays, simulations, situational dialogues, games, projects, presentations, debates, and so on. So these activities prepare learners to use English in the world beyond based on their own needs and interests. So here, while using such activities in the classroom, students practice the language in a different way, in a way which is more authentic and more functional and according to their own preferences, needs, and interests. So now we move to the in-class debate. So debate, it is one of the activities used by the communicative language approach. It is defined as an active learning process where meaning is created as a series of operations where multiple viewpoints are considered to arrive to a final judgment and decision. So as I said before, it is considered as one of the contemporary methods in language teaching and learning that emphasize not only speaking and communication skill, but also critical thinking. And that's why it has been chosen to study the relationship between oral fluency and critical thinking, because debate, it is one of the communicative activities that really emphasize critical thinking. So here we are going to see this relationship. According to Vygotsky, debate is a form of social interaction that improves participants' higher order psychological functions and critical thinking skills. Why? Because while asking students to be engaged in debate competitions, they are going through a series of actions. So these actions that are going to stimulate their thinking, their comprehension, analysis, interpretation, evaluation, problem solving, decision making, collaboration, and even some other skills like leadership and others. So debate is based on defining the issue from various perspectives, because when, again, we ask students to be involved in debates, they are going to seek, or they are going to check the issue from different angles. So they are going to evaluate the credibility and relevance of the sources, identify the different assumptions or arguments, try to so in the rebuttals, try to use arguments and convince the opponent. So all these activities are about critical thinking. So now we move to the next item, which is the research methodology. So as mentioned earlier, the data collection was done qualitatively using classroom observation and focus group interview. So the debate competition, it went into two different stages: the pre-debate stage, sorry, and the debate competition. So 40 students participated in that debate. They were from the UNCGFS. So these 40 students, they were divided into three groups: group of debaters, group of judges, and group of organizers. So the pre-debate stage, it was mainly a stage where students were provided with the topics they were working on. It was a stage for organization, and also it was a stage where students or participants were invited to take part in a workshop, which was animated by the researcher and another student who was familiar with the debate structure, format, and rule. Then we had the debates competition, which took place 2 weeks after the pre-stage debate. It means after the preparation and workshop. And that competition, it took place in school with 4 groups of debaters, and each debate took about 1 hour or 50 minutes, 1 hour. Okay, so so as I said, the two instruments used. So while the debate was taking place, the researcher was having a kind of observation which attempted to explore the extent to which in-class debates can improve students' critical thinking skills, emphasizing the following aspects, which are comprehension of concepts, argumentation, reasoning and explanation, questioning, organization, and teamwork. And then while at the end of the debate, there were some volunteered students who were invited to sit for a focus group interview. So the aim of these interviews was to get a detailed description of students' perceptions and attitudes and reflections about the in-class debate they participated in. So now we move to the findings or the results. So first, the results from the classroom observation. While observing students' participation in the debate competition, several areas where critical thinking was highly manifested were highlighted. So first, we have the comprehension of the concept. So students showed a deep understanding of the different issues tackled during the debate. They demonstrated their ability to thoroughly explain meanings in their own words, trying to make the conception in questions clear to the opponents, the judges, and the audience. So they were also using or illustrating their arguments with quotes, statistics, and even verses from the Quran. It was used in one of the topics where they needed some verses from the Quran. Then we have argumentation. So we have debaters or students were given formal, or debaters that were given formal, argumentative, and persuasive speech using strong evidence to support their opponents. So moreover, debaters were stating their arguments in a strong manner using words and non-verbal language. So they were showing that through eye contact, body language, posture, voice, and humor, because we can say that the non-verbal is also one of the most important things in the in communication and language teaching and learning. So then we have reasoning and explanation. So evidences or reasons presented by debaters were put in a clear and comprehensible order from the most important to the least ones. So besides the elaboration, arguments were supported by evidences taken from a variety of resources such as books, new media, internet, and here students they were trying to avoid all kinds of bias, generalization, or distorted information. So we have questioning then. Students were speculative and inquisitive throughout the whole debate competition. So they were personally engaged with the content by raising pertinent questions and thoroughly explaining or examining their the arguments to the or of the opposition. So then we have organization. Throughout the whole debate again, debaters were maintaining a smooth and well-organized delivery of information and opinion. So they were literally abiding by the rules or the structure of the debate, and that was thanks to the workshop they have participated in earlier. So more than that, students were attentively listening to each other's arguments, taking notes, discussing with their team members, and rebutting the counterclaims. Finally, we have collaboration and communication skills. So throughout the whole debate and from the pre-competition stage till the end, so all team members were respectfully and actively engaged in collaborative activities to achieve a common goal. So during the break that they had between the rebuttals, so students they were really exchanging opinions between each other, sharing pieces of advice and motivating each other. So that was really not only about learning, but we could witness a kind of interpersonal relationship while the debate was taking place. Then we move to the findings from the focus group interview. So as I said before, that interview, it was mainly done or employed in order to garner information or gather information regarding students' attitudes on the extent to which debates can improve their critical thinking skills. So first findings showed that participants have a positive perception and outlook towards the debate activity. So despite being the first experience for some of them, so further stated that at the beginning they were really stressed and anxious, but only at the beginning, because they confirmed that they easily and quickly overcame the situation and felt more confident and it was an opportunity to discover their hidden skills and talents like communication, public speaking, and leadership. Additionally, students pointed out to the role of debate in increasing their learning motivation. They confirmed that it was an interesting and fun experience that helped them get rid of the stressing in traditional classes. As far as critical thinking is concerned, the majority of students, 95%, confirmed that this experience, in fact, helped them develop their critical thinking skills, such as comprehension, argumentation, questioning, analysis, and evaluation. And here I have a quote stated by a student who said, "Definitely debate improves my critical thinking skills because starting from the pre-competition stage till we finished, we were all critically engaged in finding arguments, preparing our speeches for rebuttals, preparing for some questions that we might be asked, etc." Besides, interviewees maintained that debate enables them to be
Sorry,
more
Professor
open-minded.
Tani, you've got, Professor,
Yes, 1 minute, 1 minute. Yes, 1 minute,
1 minute to conclude.
and I will be done.
Great, thanks.
Okay, 1 minute. Okay, so besides, I said that it enabled them to be more open-minded and avoid all kind of bias or being judgmental and biased. So they also highlighted another aspect which was also confirmed during the observation, which is teamwork and collaboration. So here we reach the conclusion. So the findings exposed earlier confirmed that debate as a communicated language teaching strategy is considered a foremost method to teaching and learning that stimulates learners' critical thinking on different subject matters. It is an innovative approach that cultivates student engagement as active, creative, and autonomous learners. So the integration of debate in language education, EFL, ESL in particular, develops students' critical thinking, oral proficiency, learning autonomy, collaborative learning, and motivation. So we can say that debate instruction is recommended as a very important potential to be implemented in EFL classroom or context, as it enables students to learn not only about how to speak, but also what to speak about. So it is really recommended to include debate in language teaching by professors and educators, because it is at the same time constructive and fun. So thank you for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Professor Athtani. So one more special project and research. All the papers have different area of interest. They have been all interesting. Thanks a lot. So if you have some questions to each other, we can have the YouTube. You may find questions and react with viewers of these videos. So do you have any question? So I would like to thank all the presenters, Professor Arak, Sibyl Mki, Professor Dahani, Professor Msaddaq, and Ait Khtani. These were very interesting papers and researches, and thank you. And we would like to meet you, inshallah, in next projects. Thanks a lot.